Welcome to the Trinity Force Podcast. Yo, it's that Triforce cast beaming straight to your home. Grab a beer so we know Pone ain't drinking alone. Send an email, a quick tweet, just pick up the phone. Leave a message, hit the beep if you're a creep, watch your tone. Discuss the meta game, patch notes, whatever helps your stats most. Obi Pone Kenobi is your last hope to snatch gold. So grab your headphones and join in the fun. We'll try enforcing some jokes and some cringeworthy puns. Yo, we can make it together, people. Trinity Force Podcast. These boys are second to none. Now that's the end of the intro. It's time we begun.
Hey guys, welcome to Trinity Force Podcast, episode 543. 3? Yeah, 543 coming in your ears. Either way, if it's 544, we'll figure that out at the end. Anyway, there's a lot of fucking episodes. At this point, I don't even know why I'm counting them. But we are, and here we are, 543. Just figured it out as we did this. So I am joined by Lancifer, Vrail, and Moon. Say hello.
What up, G's? Hello.
How's it going, everybody?
Guys, we are going to talk some League of Legends, as we always do. All these guys are ready to do it. We should only be doing one show this week. Our two on, one off is kind of getting screwed up because we've had some changes with the way the podcast is working. If you've been following my Twitter, you followed Reddit, you've already seen this, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. So I just got the notification last week that Beaver is deciding to take a break from League of Legends, and what that means he's taking a break from the podcast. And what that does is that leaves us with basically Moon and Vrail as full-time podcasters. I honestly, right now, I'm going to throw him on blast. I don't know what happened to Bears. Like, he was out there, he's podcasting with us, and then suddenly he just fell off the face of the earth. I can't get a hold of him in League. I haven't seen him be in playing and whatnot, and maybe he'll come back. But for right now, really, the full-time podcasters are Moon, Vrail, and myself, and I'm only available every other week to do 2 shows, unfortunately, just to the way my job is. So that leaves us with, 2 full-time podcasters that could potentially do 2 shows a week?
And even then, like, I'm not for sure every 2 shows every week either, so it's, you know.
So we have one person that can absolutely do 2 shows every single week. And Lancifer, he's decided to step up as well and try to help out as much as he can, but I know his schedule is kind of wacky as well. So where we are at is we don't have the number of hosts that we've always had. And I understand that after 542 episodes, I want to say, I hate when people say I'm blessed, but that's the only way I can really describe it right now. I'm very blessed to be made it this far and have this group of people and be able to push this show as far as we have, But over the last couple months, we really have had some life hit us really hard. I've had a new job and kid, and we've had new people, and Dom drops out. I'm not going to go into it all. You guys know. You've been listening to full time. So with that said, I am actually going to I have it open right now. Starting to the moment that you listen to this podcast, I am taking applications for full-time podcasters for the Trinity Force Podcast proper. Now, with this, before I get into anything else, this is not a paid position. This is a labor of love. We do this because we love to podcast, we love to play League of Legends, we love to talk about it, we love the community that we have created here through the Trinity Force Network. So if you are looking to get paid in any form, don't even apply. I'm sorry. It's just not how this is. This isn't me trying to look for free work. This is me saying this is what it is and this is how it's going to be. So what I'm looking for are Platinum 5 or higher players that want to talk about League of Legends, want to teach other people about League of Legends, and also have the drive to help continue to grow this podcast to larger and larger, higher and higher heights, really. Because what I need is I do need help coming up with show topics and ideas. I also need people that can be available 2 days a week. And so to give you guys a good example of how this would work is that, for example, on June 25th and 27th, we would podcast. On July 2nd, we'd play games, and on July 4th, we would podcast again. Now, of course, we're not going to podcast on July 4th, but that's just to give you an example of how that would work. 2, 1 off, 1 on, and we keep going. Now, if you are really dedicated, you want a podcast, you think you have what it takes, you're Plat 5 or higher, what I need you to do is go ahead and go open up Audition or Audacity or Windows Sound Recorder, whatever it is, and record a 5-minute MP3. Don't go any longer than 5. If you go longer than 5, I'm automatically going to drop you out. Seriously. Like, even if it's 5:01, I'm not going to listen to it because it's one of those like interview things. You're showing me that you can't follow directions. 5 minutes or lower. That's what I want of an MP3. And you're going to talk about the following topic. What are your responsibilities as a insert your role here. So, for example, what are your responsibilities as a top laner? What are your responsibilities as a marksman, etc.? And just assume normal meta. Don't do this weird, bot lane is now Vladimir and Twisted Fate type of shit.
It's great. Come on.
I love it. Don't get me wrong, but I don't want to hear that for the sake of this MP3. So and the deadline, July 1st at midnight Central Time. Send that to feedback@trinityforcepodcast.com, and I'll go through all the submissions over those couple of days. I'll start emailing people, and we'll either set up secondary interviews, or I'll just bring people onto the podcast one at a time to try to give a trial run. The only thing that you need to have when you start here, or I really recommend that you have, is a webcam, because we do go live. So if you don't want to show your face, don't apply either, because I'm not going to do this whole thing where we have a mystery person and I don't get to see who you are. Because I'm trying to grow YouTube with this upcoming half a year and whatnot too. So all you need is a webcam. I will supply a microphone to you if you don't have a good microphone. Obviously, having one is a plus, and that's pretty much it. Just come in, be ready to podcast, be ready to talk about that, and we will be happy to listen to and try to find people that fit in with this group. And I'm not necessarily looking for people that can 100% analyze and break down this game. I'm also looking for people that have personalities. I'm looking for people that I think will mesh with the group. I'm looking for I'm not looking for specific roles. We could be filled with top laners so that Moon can argue with them all day over why.
Let's be real. My super bland monotone personality needs somebody with some life to balance it out. So
that's right.
Definitely, analysis isn't the only thing that's important.
Yeah, not at all. That's why Lancever's here, for the crazy beard and good looks.
I'm missing the sunglasses. I wish he kept them on.
I've got them right here. Wait, shit, where'd they go? Oh, right here.
I got them right here. Oh, fuck. Yeah, and as you know, we're
so much better.
Dude, that is way better. Yeah, honestly, with the hair and the beard and everything, if you're not wearing those full time.
Oh, yeah. No, these are my go-tos.
Do you walk into a bar after work? I know that you serve alcohol all day. Just humor me. Do you walk into a bar after work, sit down, flip a quarter to the bartender, and go, "Hey, give it to me"? Because that's what you look like. You look like one of those dudes who just get shit done.
No, I wish. I wish I had that sort of air around me where I could just demand shit like that.
The glasses, dude. The glasses do it.
Yeah, they do. And also, you can tell that I'm actually on the show dock over here. You can see it moving across my glasses.
Damn, look at that. That's trippy. All right. So that's where that ends, guys. The Trinity Force Podcast, looking for a podcaster. I want to know what your responsibilities as a role is. Keep it under 5 minutes. 5 minutes or under. Don't go over. I swear to God, if you go over, I'm throwing your fucking thing out. I don't care how good of a podcaster you are, or if you're masters. If you go 5 minutes, I'm done. Just out. Feedback@trinityforcepodcast.com. Send that over to us, Google Drive or Dropbox, and I'll listen and get back to you guys later. So we're really looking forward to bringing more people onto this show. Share it with your friends. Let all your friends know. Let them all know. All right, cool. Let's talk about League of Legends. I'm not going to go into the whole Buddha boxes and stuff. You guys know about that. Oh, by the way, if you want more information, r/r/T-Force Network on Reddit. There's a whole post there running this all down. So I have information to talk about. First and foremost, we're going to talk about patch 8.12, a little bit of follow-up from that, because as of today, a tweet went out that there are some changes that are going to be hitting patch 8.12, or they're hitting today. I think they hit right now. Hell, my client said it's updating, so we're going to try and talk about, see what happens here. Actually, Infinity Edge, the cost for it is going down from 3,700 to 3,600 gold. Does this just get a big hooray from everybody?
Love tap.
Yeah.
Technically, this is a Garen buff too, because crit Garen is pretty dead right now because the crit items are too expensive for him as well. So,
of course.
It's a start, I guess. 100 goals. It's something. They're it's acknowledging there's a problem. They're well, we'll do this and then revisit it in a minute.
Doesn't that bring the combined cost down to equal with their Abaddons? 1,100 gold.
I mean, you're assuming that they changed the combined cost. They probably didn't.
No, this is 1,000 gold because it's 2BF, so it's 1,300, 1,300, 2,600. So it's already 1,100.
Yeah.
So, okay. It was equal before, so.
Right. And that's why I put it in the document. Double BF into Zeal is still 3,900 gold, and it's still more powerful than picking up Infinity Edge straight out.
And just to put this Just to put all this into context, if you haven't been keeping up, it's pretty much Lucian, Kaisa, and MF. Those are the viable ADCs, and Draven, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's because none of them require crit to scale.
Yep.
Yeah.
And do we think, is it crit items that are the problem, or is it that those ADCs are too strong?
So we kind of went over this on the meta report where we all the crit items are super expensive, and the ones that are strong are the ones that you mentioned. It's like either they build Rageblade first or they synergize really well with Stormrazor. So that's like MF Draven. And I think you can throw Jhin in there also. And then it's the Rageblade users. But I think it's in general just because their builds didn't change and all the crit ones, it's a combination of their builds being better and now all these bruisers coming into lane that are kind of like shoving crit ADCs out of the window.
Yeah, there's no time for scaling because Riot has changed a lot of the items so that the bruisers, generally speaking, get their items more quickly than marksmen do, and this has always been that way. They've always get bigger spikes at either at a same amount or a little bit less gold than like marksmen do. For example, a Renekton coming back to lane with 2 longswords is going to do, or a longsword and ruby crystal is going to do more than an AD carry coming back to lane with a Caulfield's Warhammer, right? And that's about the same amount of gold total. And it's just due to the nature of the role and how they scale. So obviously having the lower economy roles, well, I guess it's a high economy, but either way, you get the idea. Having the safer role, throwing people down there that spike early and mid do better. The problem the problem with most AD carries is if you don't spike early and mid, they're not able to keep up with the extra damage and output that the bruisers are having. You fall off really hard, and you don't actually come online. Even when you come online, you don't come online quick enough because those people have better items for cheaper than what you're getting.
I'm honestly surprised that bot lane is in some way being overtaken by melees as like the primary damage source in that lane, like funneling the gold into the melee bruiser.
Mm-hmm.
Because it seems like in a 2v2 lane especially, like one of the reasons bruisers go top is for the solo lane experience, because they're better early, so they want to spike faster in the early game. And going in the duo lane slows that down. And you become more gold dependent when you have less experience. And you would kind of think that like the range scaling heroes on a gold system would still outperform the bruisers. Especially, I think that in that 2v2, I feel like the range gives them a laning advantage as well. So I'm kind of surprised.
Well, really, the problem
is you get all in before, once double melee. Once they get level 3, you don't ever get a chance to buy your items as an ADC, or you shouldn't anyway. You just get all in constantly. So like a ranged champion's chance to win the lane, I feel like, is level 1 and 2. But if you don't like significantly get through their health pots or through their health pool, then by the time they're level 3, it's just kind of over. Because I've played a fair bit of this, the bruiser bot, and the hardest part is just the first 2 levels and getting your full complement of abilities. But once you have it, it's kind of like game over before anyone even backs.
Just out of curiosity, because I personally haven't gotten to play it much, what kind of comps were you running, and like who were you against, if you remember?
Okay, so I played a few with Dom. We did Trundle, Ornn. So Trundle, Ornn was against a Nami Ezreal, and the Ezreal we didn't feel like we could ever kill, so we just all in the Nami over and over, and that went really well. We killed the Nami like 5 times in lane.
And that's pretty much probably, you guys are both creating terrain and she has no way to
yeah, he would make a pillar and then I would instantly knock her up and then she just dies before she can go anywhere. And then I know we did Aurelia Leona. I don't remember who that was against, but once we got level 3, we just kind of crushed them. And we did Rumble Amumu, and that one was more waiting to get 6, and then that was against Alistar Jhin, I think. But once we got 6, like the lane was over. We just all in them, and like a combination of alts was too strong.
That last one in particular sounds like I feel like Ali Lucian could have been a lane that could have gone either way.
Yeah.
I mean that's a good combo, and Lucian's good right now.
Yeah.
So.
See, every time I've played it, I've played Jarvan, almost specifically out of the bottom lane, because I still like going back to the picture of Goose Days with Jarvan Leona, because Leona and Jarvan has his passive where he's doing percent. And Leona, obviously, every time something procs, she's getting that sunlight passive to do more damage. And really anything like Pantheon Leona and Jarvan Leona, anybody that has some kind of dash or pop-up. We were playing Jarvan Pike, and we were almost always targeting the support over the marksman early game just to get those early kills to snowball, go back and come back to lane with a little bit more. It's the only way that you're playing around this is you need to have your jungler pretty much camp the bottom lane. Like if they get ahead, the jungler has to come down there and help. But that should obviously give your other lanes an ability to come back. But I really do think, to kind of like change topic here just a little bit, I do think the symptom or the problem with this duo bruiser bot lane thing is that the state of the game allows anybody who gets ahead is going to win the game as long as they continue to play. They continue to play it out properly. So if that duo can do that level 2 all in, they've now won that lane almost outright, and now they can continue to push that lead through other lanes and whatnot. And it's the same thing where top lane, if you kill somebody early, they're not coming back and killing you. Same thing with mid, jungle, etc. Like this game is super snowbally at this point. So anybody who gets a huge early mid power spike through gold is the one who's going to win the game.
Well, would y'all agree that in general, if it's relatively early game, if a bruiser and a ADC are on even footing gold wise, generally the bruiser is going to win the 1v1 if they can get on top of them.
Yeah,
it's just kind of the nature of the kit. I think that's kind of just being exploited bot a lot. Like even if they're the same level, as long as they're pretty similar.
I really agree with that, but I think you said it perfectly. Like that's 1v1. I feel honestly like as soon as it becomes 2v2, I feel like it should be the opposite. I mean, I've played the melee bot lane just because of getting autofilled and solo queue like a bunch. And maybe it's different now because of the balance in the game, or maybe it's different because of, I don't know, now it's accepted so people are more confident in the ability or whatever, or the strategy or whatever it might be. But I've played Trinity and I've played Darius and I've played Garen bot lane a bunch in solo queue, and I don't know, it's worked, but it's always felt like we got lucky or we cheesed it out or they just didn't respect the all-in because they were unfamiliar.
Well, I would argue that those 3 champions might not be the best at it. I feel like you need someone who, I mean, I guess Trinity does have a spin, but he doesn't really have a ton of CC to go with it. I feel like you need something that has a way of getting on top of people and a way of CCing them. So I think that's really key to making it work.
You are... I think, personally, I think you're 100% right, Moon. I think everything that is going on right now between patch 8.11 and 8.12 is just the surprise factor. Nobody knows how to play against anything down there. Hell, we saw Heimerdinger Fiddlesticks in the LCS. Who fucking knows how to play against Heimerdinger Fiddlesticks, right? Like, you don't. There's almost no play around that other than wait for your jungler to come and gank because they just push. But that's the thing. Like, if you're playing into Darius Nami, how do you play into that if you don't normally play into Darius Nami? You don't know what to expect. You don't know the power spikes to hit. And that's the same thing that's happened between Ornn and Trundle and J4 Leona, and I can just go on and on and on. Hell, I guess right now people are saying that Vladimir is probably the best AP carry to play out of bottom lane.
And doesn't that seem so weird? Because
I feel like
the scale with levels, right? His biggest spike is through XP to reach level 9 ASAP. And why does he want to go into the duo lane? I don't fucking understand that. Because he loses XP. He's not spiking as fast. Like, it takes Vlad even longer to come online. Like, I just don't understand why that is the strategy.
I feel like it's because he can farm. I think when you're thinking about Ryze or Vladimir bot, it's not so much that you're trying to win the lane per se. You just want to get your items, and like bot lane's a safe place to do that, and it's like just a substitute ADC, not so much as trying to abuse it like bruisers do. It's just like a different character you can plug in there who's going to scale really hard, because like Ryze and Vladimir both scale incredibly hard into the late game, so it's just like finding a different character that fills the same role even though it's an AP character.
Yeah, it's one of those. He like Vladimir, the idea is that he has good sustain. He's able to farm easily. He has ways to get out of ganks, and then he can funnel all that gold into items that he can eventually turn into experience by going to side lanes and whatnot. And he still duels really well with gold.
It just feels like we're throwing out a lot of the traditional knowledge in this game. Like the whole reason mages stayed mid to begin with, because XP was just as important as gold. The whole reason ADCs went bots because they didn't need to level up. They just needed to get gold. So like they could take the XP hit and it affected them less than other roles in that lane, basically. Other types of classes in that lane.
But all in all, is it really a problem? I guess the question is it a problem? Because we see, if you want to compare Dota, for example, the meta's all over the fucking place in Dota. Anything can be played just about anywhere. And League is getting, now with 8.11 and 8.12, we're finally at that point. And I'm going to be honest with you, I feel like we should have been playing this way from the very beginning. And the meta was the way it was because people just accepted it because they saw it work. And in the meantime, a lot of this shit was probably working, could have worked 2 or 3 seasons ago during like the Athenes era and whatnot. Or not Athenes, Ardent Sensor.
Ardent Sensor, yeah.
But no one was really trying it. Do you remember when Ziggs popped up and was like the best AP carry forever? And that's because we had that huge gap in between patches. It's shit like that what you're talking about. Like this game, there's so much room for people to play around and innovate and whatnot. We just haven't had the time to do it. And I kind of feel like people just kind of at the point went, this is the time we're doing it because we think that people suck. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, Caitlyn and Jinx and shit aren't good anymore. All right, time to innovate. Well, we could have been doing that for how many fucking seasons?
Yeah. I mean, for example, like going off the mage thing and innovate, like allowing some of those different picks into the bot lane. Like granted, he's not as weird as some of the other picks because he has the AD build, but I've been playing AP Kennen out of bot lane with the support for a little while now, and it's always worked just because you farm up, you get that proto belt, and suddenly it's just like you've played it out of mid, top, anything. Like,
I didn't really well. Go ahead.
Just to be clear, I didn't think these characters like shouldn't quote not be allowed into the bot lane. I just meant that like traditionally one of the reasons that they've gone mid is because of like their dependence on experience, which you get more over the solo.
Yeah. You're able to get that level 6 faster, able to roam faster because of that level 6, all that.
Yeah. And I agree with you. And I think there's something to be said for that, but I'm all for this innovation and change that is going on. Now, I will say that if you go and read some of Riot's replies, that the stats are saying that most people aren't playing the Bruisers bot lane. Like the majority of people are still playing some kind of AD carry down there, and the Bruiser thing is kind of like more like a high elo. People are fucking around because they're bored with the game type of thing. Like if you watch Cutie Pie's stream, right? How many times has he played like really stupid shit out of support and AD carry? But when you play the game every single day, it makes sense.
Some of that is low elo, is slow to catch on too. If I'm playing on my main account, I like one game, and I switch to a Smurf that's like silver, I'll see bans like 2 patches behind a lot of the time. A lot of that stuff trickles down slowly.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, when the majority of your player base is silver and low gold, it makes sense. And how many people today actually know that those changes that we're talking about, like this all started with us just talking about Infinity Edge and nothing else, but how many people know that that patch hit and those changes happened? I'd wager to bet less than 1% of the entire population knows.
Yeah, that seems aggressive, but
no, it's not aggressive because it was a fucking tweet. It was a tweet.
It was nothing on the client that says they did that.
Not unless they updated it since I closed it. No. And even then, I want to see the stats. I would say the stats for people that read the patch notes is like 5% of the entire player base, and I'm being like generous.
It's a small percent. I mean, I don't know what the numbers are, but I know that Riot themselves have even stated that, they don't get very many hits on their patch note pages compared to how many people log into the game play.
Yeah.
So.
All right, well, we should probably... So we just... That whole spin-off was because this patch 8.12 follow-up. Storm Razor got changed as well. The AD went up by 5. It is now 75. And they're changing how the MS works. It was 10% move speed for 1.5 seconds. It's now 20% move speed for 4.75 seconds.
What? It's 20% for 0.75.
Right, 20% for 0.75 seconds.
Oh, okay. I might have misheard you. That's interesting. I don't know. So you're faster for shorter. I guess you have to play with it and see how it feels. I don't know if that really makes a huge difference. 5 more AD is nice though.
5 more AD is the main part of this. Being faster for a moment is great for like Jhin though. Like being able to 20% for 0.75, you should be able to cover the same amount of distance in that amount of time.
I think that tweak favors ranged characters over melee, because I think melee characters, since they have higher base MS, would prefer like 10% for longer, especially since they're dependent on gap closing.
Right.
So I think this is a buff for crit ADCs that might want to build Stormrazor.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's definitely looking at some of those that may be abusing it. But how many are Gangplank, Tryndamere?
No, Tryndamere doesn't build Stormrazor.
Really? Not that he doesn't throw that into like a 4th item?
No, he doesn't need it.
We're going to talk Tryndamere here a little later, so I have him written down because I want to hear about your Tryndamere build.
Oh, okay. Well, it's not my Tryndamere build.
No, but you said you didn't want to play him. But Essence Reaver is getting a change. The passive on alt cast called Essence Flare. The duration of the buff's going down to 6 seconds, but the attack speed is being increased up to 50% from 30%.
I don't know if it needed a compensation buff. I feel like it probably just needed a nerf. Lucian is so scary with this item.
Lucian and Master Yi.
Renekton's pretty nasty with it also.
Yeah, but I don't know if Renekton was really using the attack speed portion of it.
Nah, not the attack speed. He just loves the cooldown reduction while ult's up.
Yeah, so 6 seconds is 1 less ability, essentially, or 2 less abilities. I mean, it'd be 1 less ability being used, because 2 seconds.
I don't really feel like Essence Reaver was super impressive. I mean, playing against a Renekton that gets fed and has it, well, one, he's already fed, and it just kind of like is overkill at that point. But
yeah,
I don't think Essence Reaver in and of itself is super overtuned.
Well, looking at any of these changes, great, thanks for changing these, but I don't think they really do. They obviously don't do anything to change how marksmen are going to be. No one's going to suddenly jump back in and go, oh my god, Infinity Edge costs 100 gold less. Like, this doesn't change the landscape of bottom lane. This just kind of just shifts power a little bit out from jungle, top lane, and whatnot. But at the end of the day, it's not going to shift the meta, and it's not going to change win rates by a significant portion, because the only person using the attack speed is Lucian out of Essence Reaver. There's only like 3 or 4 champions really in the meta building Essence Reaver right now.
Well, I guess I know there's a build that Jax uses it, but I think Jax still wants to go like the classic Trinity Force Sterix kind of stuff. But the attack speed might entice him into going into it.
I mean, there's a Zoe build that uses Proto Belt, so anything's possible. There's the Garen build.
I guess that's true.
And most people that play Garen that aren't Garen mains are building defense on him, right?
Mm-hmm. And Garen's like in a weird spot after the Steric change, because Triforce doesn't feel as good on him, and Cleaver feels as bad as ever. So I don't really know what I'm going to be doing now.
Is Stormrazor good on him? Stormrazor, what's the Duskblade? Just kill people with Q?
I was doing Triforce Stormrazor, but it's really expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the issue, I guess.
Yeah.
Triforce is what, 37, right? Something like that, 3,700.
Yeah, 3,740, and then 3,200 in Storm. It's the same cost as Tri Sterix, but Sterix gives you the defense that you need. You were like covering 2 bases. Now it's kind of weird. I feel like I have this gap. Either I have too much defense or too much offense.
I still can't get that. I put those in. I put the items in the document, right? Like, Essence Reaver is 3,200 gold. Blade of the Ruined King is 3,200 gold. Ginsu's is 3,300 gold. Even Double BF is still 2,600 gold. And Trinity Force is 3,733. So it's still, even then, like, Trinity Force is a bigger power spike than Infinity Edge. I think it's still a really sad state that Infinity Edge can't be brushed, and the supporting items for the crit AD carries suck.
I don't know why Infinity Edge has to be so damn expensive, because it's already expensive when you think about how the item works. It requires you to have bought something else to get the most you can out of it. So isn't that already artificially inflating its cost? Why is it so expensive on top of that? Like, I don't understand.
Well, how many
They
times...
don't want ADCs to get online too quickly. That's like the whole reason they're doing it, is they want ADCs to take longer to scale, which I think they've done successfully.
Which is, great.
Almost overkill.
Which is great, but then you have to make everybody else scale differently to compensate. Because obviously we're going back to the same fucking conversation we had before, but you have to like move everybody's power spike 3% forward, right? To compensate for the fact that AD carries take longer. Otherwise, everybody just funnels all their fucking gold into the people that come online earlier.
All I'm saying is that, so they took the base crit out of IE, right? When it was 3,400, and they gave it an extra 10 AD. Okay, big deal. In its current state, after the hotfix, which decreased its gold cost, you still have to spend an additional 600 gold just to get the same value that it used to offer at 3,400. Mm-hmm. And I'm okay with it being nerfed, but doesn't it seem weird that it's basically an 800 gold more expensive item? Yeah. I mean, it's basically how it's worked out. It's like you need 800 more gold, and it's not as good across the board as the old Infinity Edge was either, because the squishy damage isn't as high. Like, I'm like the first to be like, yo, fuck range characters and like ADCs who align too much, especially. But I think Infinity Edge was appropriately priced as it was. And when they increased Brawler Glove from 400 to 600 and took the other crit items out of the game, I think that was all they had to do to gate IE. I feel like it's already gated enough. Why did they gate it more?
I wasn't upset with the way with the current state of AD carries. I just feel like they did it to shake it up because they had to, right? Lethality. The only time that we saw a difference is when lethality was really powerful, and those champions like Jhin, Lucian, MF, Draven could use that. But really, these champions end up being really good when they're not being poked out of lane. Another way that I could see them changing the original Infinity Edge, which we probably aren't going back to, but the original Infinity Edge could be just dropping the gold value, dropping the amount of crit you get out of it, dropping the AD a little bit, kind of like just scaling it back to be as powerful as the other items. I never felt like when I got Infinity Edge as an AD carry that I was hitting a spike. My spike was BF. That was a spike that I needed to come back to lane with. And you can see that in the pro scene too, where people were going BF into, or even early rapid fire cannon into BF, or BF into rapid fire cannon. They weren't finishing Infinity Edge because finishing that item never felt good. And now it feels even worse.
Yeah.
And at what point do you fucking build this thing, right? Like, I'm going to build a Storm Razor into some kind of attack speed crit item, into potentially a Last Whisper or an Infinity Edge, so I got to build a third or fourth item. And by that point, the game is already over because the game is too snowballing. There's just the overarching problem with it is larger than the item itself. That's what I'm getting at. And that's called overanalyzing the item. All right, I want to talk about Pyke. I'm sure you guys have seen Pyke. I'm sure you guys have played as or with against Pyke. And before this gets anywhere, I'm going to say that Pyke is a jungler and he's not a support. And anybody who says that he's a support is wrong. And I'm probably actually wrong. But Pyke's a jungler, not a support.
I don't know, man. I think people are starting to figure Pyke out.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's really good. I like him.
So some of the high-level supports like Afro are really starting to figure out the nuance in his kit. And I just bumped my table as I said that and not going to be able to take it out. So, sorry, listeners. Yeah, high-level supports are starting to figure him out like Afro, and they're doing nasty things on him. They're pulling off level 6 all-ins at a full health enemy bot lane and killing both people. Like, I had somebody play Pyke support today for me while I was playing bot Kinnan, and that lane alone, just being able to set up stuns off of one another and keep them rooted for an entire health bar's worth of damage feels pretty good. I was mentioning to him that I feel like that champion just has a lot of nuance to his kit that, like you said, I think people are really starting to figure out. But at first, I don't know, just didn't click with people at first. Wrong builds or whatever.
Well, I think like early game, he just wants to hit his hook and then try and get kills like that. But I feel like late game, like good pikes are so hard to kill because they're really learning how to navigate fights where they will do their combo, but then slip out and then come back and then clean up everything. It just feels like he's become so elusive in team fights. Like even though he doesn't get a lot of HP, it just feels so hard to kill him. Because if you lose sight of him for even a second, he gets his whole health bar back.
Yeah. Like, that sort of slipperiness kind of reminds me of Rakan whenever he first dropped, where he felt stupid, just oppressive with how hard it was to kill him.
When we were playing with and against Pyke early, I never felt like Pyke needed all the extra AD, but it looks like people are still flying through the Duskblade AD builds with him, but it looks like he's just going straight mobility with some kind of AD in this kit. With you guys have seen him in game. How have you been seeing him being played? Have you been seeing him roaming quite a bit? Have you been seeing him just sticking a bot lane? What's going on?
He roams a lot. The most annoying build that I played against was he had Moby Boots and what's the armor item that gives you move speed as you run further? Deadman's, yeah. So he was just running all over the place, and it wasn't so much his like damage outside of his ult that was annoying. It was just that he was all over the map and super like he was invisible and he was ganking people. So it wasn't his damage in and of itself that was annoying. It was that he was setting up his team really well. That was frustrating to play against.
Yeah,
that's why I see a lot of people when they play Pyke, right? The build seems to be Duskblade of Drakthar, maybe a Yumu's, but really it's Mobility's Boots and Duskblade into a Deadman's, and of course your support item at the same time. But I'm really wondering if Black Cleaver isn't the item to pick up on him instead of a Duskblade, because do you need the extra burst, or is stacking up the passive on the champion more important as a support? And I kind of feel with the support he builds that it makes more sense that he gets more out of Duskblade, or excuse me, he gets more out of Black Cleaver than he would Duskblade.
I don't pay super close attention. I always think that the best build for him is always going to be just the support items and like the classic support items and just play around his ult damage. So I don't really like the whole Duskblade and the whole Black Cleaver. I would rather you just get something like Knight's Vow. You get a little AD out of that because of the HP and you get a little tankier so you can survive fights better. So I prefer that style of build if I'm playing with a Pyke. But I get people want to build damage because they want to be able to do a full one shot on somebody and just, come out of stealth and act like they're Kha'Zix, which I guess they can if they get ahead. But I really do prefer a more supporty build on him.
I agree with you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I feel like the more supporty build is probably the safer build.
Well, one is a safer build. Two, like some kind of supporty. That's why I think Black Cleaver ends up being the item you build on him, because it's still supporty in the sense that it's shredding armor and you are getting that extra damage that you want. But if you're going some kind of supporty build on him, like going rushing Moby Boots into a Black Cleaver into a Frozen Heart seems to kind of like be the ideal way to play him. I could also see Righteous Glory if you can afford it, but like just being able to help engage team fights or be able to speed up your team to do it. Like we said originally he doesn't do very well with engaging team fights, but he does really well with picking opponents during that engage. So as Frail said, he can pick an opponent, stun them, they can die, and then he can go invisible, get his life back, and then just go in and clean up. And that's every time I've ever seen him be successful is doing exactly that. I've been really impressed with Pyke and the way he is, even his win rate is low. I've been really impressed with this champion, and I think I quite like him a lot.
Mm-hmm. I still think the splitting gold stuff is stupid. And are y'all frustrated when you get killed by Pyke's ultimate and then like all your sound changes? That stuff's so annoying to me. It's like you're underwater or something. That little bit just tilts me so badly.
Tilts you off the face of the earth.
It's like, I died, now I don't even sound like I'm drowning or something, which is like, I guess they're going for.
That's never bothered me. I don't like the splitting gold. Like, here's your chunk of the bounty. I was like, what is this? Oh, that's where my gold is at. You get the stupid little coin in your inventory.
Yeah.
Pyke.
You know what's annoying about Riot? Whenever they add something new to the game, they always go overboard with it. They're like so proud of themselves. So they added the Klepto, and they're like, oh, little gold bags pop up in your inventory. Make sure we get that on the next champion. That's a great mechanic. We need to spread that around. And they do that with everything. Like, just keep an eye on it. Next time something new, is in the game. It'll be on 2 or 3 more things within like 6 patches.
I think his ult is a little buggy also. I don't know if we've talked about this yet, but I know if someone dies in the X animation without actually dying to Pyke's ultimate, it will still split the gold. So like I was playing Pyke and I didn't get the kill, but I got my own share of the loot because they died in the X animation, and I was the one who got the assist. So
yeah, no, I'm pretty sure that's intended. I'm pretty sure that's intended.
I get to share my own loot with myself. That seems so stupid to me. Because he's not actually getting the kill with his ult. They're just dying in the animation.
Yeah.
But it still splits the gold.
Yeah. I'm looking it up right now, so.
As an aside, you know what's funny, Moon? It's that, you know how you mentioned how Riot's design philosophy and stuff is? If I could find it, I would link it to you, but maybe if you get a hair up your ass, you can find it. If you go look up Iron Stylus, he used to be a Rioter. He threw a ton of shade at Riot not 2 weeks ago or something about their design philosophy.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Really?
Do stuff. You're basically saying the same thing you do. Like, we found something really cool, now let's put it on everybody.
3-hit passives.
I mean, it's not even throwing shade. If you just look at their development cycle, I'm just a player, and I'm just, you know what I mean? I just noticed the pattern, you know? They don't hide it very well. Every time it happens, it goes all over the place.
If I could find that thread, I'll link it at you. But yeah, he threw some shade at Riot for the way that their design philosophy has been recently in the last couple of years. And I think it's like dead on with what you were saying.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that my claims aren't baseless.
No, coming from a former designer, if that's happening, I would say not. I guess it's Pyke. See, I'd like to have Bears out here to talk about it a little more, but that's all right. You know, let us know what your experiences with Pyke are. Feedback at trinityforcepodcast.com. Something I want to point out. Go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to get that in that conversation. He's not good top lane.
Nah,
he's not good jungle.
He is
good jungle. Sorry, Adam.
He's a good jungler. I'm gonna throw it out here. Pyke's actually a really good jungler. He has
Clear's
phenomenal game.
You're against a competent person on an actual jungle.
Oh, fuck off. I'm done with this fucking argument. If you were done against a competent person, like fucking Beaver last time, where, well, if you got caught as Talia in the jungle, it wouldn't work very well. Fuck you. That's why she's
No, I've admitted we were wrong about Talia. I played Talia. Talia jungle's actually a thing. I've played Pyke jungle like 3 or 4 times. That shit's terrible.
All right. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt because you have played Pyke jungle. I will give you the benefit of the doubt. I still think he's a jungler. But I did admit that I'm probably wrong. Something I'm going to jump down here to the document is that Blitzcrank, right? You think of him as like the low elo god where he's always banned or picked. But if you're looking for a really good counter to the bot lane shit that's going on right now, Blitzcrank is probably one of the best counters going out there. Because he disrupts and completely nullifies everything you're looking for.
Dude, Blitzcrank is a god champion. Okay, he can pull people into his team to engage impromptu fights, right? Everybody knows that. But he can also walk away from the team, and he can use that same pull to pull an enemy off of somebody critical on his team that's being dived. And nobody does that. Like, nobody goes out of their way to do that with the grab for some reason. And you just need to do it.
Can do it now and execute everyone.
Blitz is the original Pyke.
No, I agree. I love Blitzcrank. But I would say another really good counter to anything goes is Fiddlesticks. Because he can really abuse melees with his
point and click
silence and then just fear them when they go in. So Fiddlesticks is really good against the all-in lanes also.
Yeah, Alistair is a G as well. I mean, his R keeps him safe, and his Q and W and E keep anybody else safe too. So,
and Sivir's your go-to marksman, honestly, against all that. Like, if you're just looking to shut them down and not kill anybody, fucking Sivir, man. She doesn't die in the ganks if you're good at timing E.
Yeah, Sivir and Ezreal, I would say.
I don't think Ezreal is nearly as good as people are making him out to be. I think he's just too slippery because he doesn't solo carry very hard, right? Like, yeah, you can pick Ezreal and you're just you're there. You just didn't die in lane. Congratulations. You've made it.
Well, sometimes that's all you have to do is not die.
That's fair. And yeah, against those bruisers bot lanes, sometimes all you have to do is not die because then what do? it goes back to Moon's point. Well, they might have some gold, but they don't have the levels to keep up with it.
Yeah, I don't feel like bruisers scale as well with gold as other classes do. I think mages and ADCs, even in the current patch, I feel like they would still outscale bruisers.
I think a lot of people are actually looking at APC's bot lane right now because of that exact reason. I do want to.
That'll be interesting. I actually think magic resist is it's a lot better now than it used to be, but for a long time it was really poorly designed. And I think that because magic resist is so hard to itemize, if like mages ever dominate the meta, like we're gonna have to see a magic resist item overhaul.
And we did a while ago. Do you remember 2 or 3 seasons? It was probably 3 seasons ago at this point, where we had the double AP. That was AP top, AP mid, and they had to do some kind of overhaul to the defensive items because of that.
Yeah, they made them busted, and then they had to tune them back when the AP disappeared.
So
not that long after.
Speaking of new items, now that we've had more time with like the bruisers everywhere thing, do we like? I kind of think Riot was right to hold off on releasing like Atmas and the spear item, because imagine if they had thrown that shit in there.
I'm mad about that still. I think they should have put it out.
If they put that out though, that would like that is bruisers everywhere. That is bruisers bottom lane all the time.
Because isn't Atmas the one that would give you scaling resistances the longer you're in combat?
No, it had flat resists and it gave you damage over time.
Okay, for being the other one. It just seems like it would have, like bruisers would legit just take over everything. And so I'm kind of happy that the items aren't in the game.
That was really the problem with Atmos previously, is that it gave armor and AD, and that's everything the top laner would ever want. So yeah, they just would take over because of that.
Honestly, I really don't think Atmos would have been that big a deal. The way it was tuned, it was like a third item. It had no HP, low armor, low MR, and low AD. And it was only good if you stayed alive for 3 or 4 seconds in combat with champions only. So it was pretty well tuned. I think Spear of Sojin is really what would have been the scary item. But I'm really upset about the Sterix change because the bruiser items didn't go along with it. That nerf was supposed to be, in conjunction with the release of those items to give bruisers more options, since they were taking away one of the tri-gauge build basically.
Didn't they envision it kind of as a nerf for some but a buff for others? Because they wanted it to be like more available to people who scaled differently with like total or bonus attack damage.
We talked about that last time, because I remember a couple patches ago we talked about that in the patch notes update. What was it, the other item that they changed? Moon be able to tell me. We were talking about people that had total attack damage, like Darius and whatnot. What was the item that they got changed that they would like? Do you remember?
Sterix is what got changed. Sterix went from being base AD to total, or to being bonus, sorry. It went from base AD to being bonus AD now in the new patch. So characters like Darius, who had bonus AD ratios, who weren't getting you'd build Sterix Gauge and your damage on your ult wouldn't be any higher. And now Darius is 70, 75 AD coming out of Sterix. It helps his ult. But then there are people like Garen who had total AD ratios. So the change from base to bonus doesn't buff or nerf him. But then characters like Darius, who were probably already stronger, are now even
just buffs his contemporaries without him getting anything, basically.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. But that's just Garen specific. But like the biggest thing I think is that tri-gauge is gone, and we were supposed to get something to replace that, and the fact that we didn't is a tad annoying. Hopefully they don't not release those items.
Are you talking about
Atmas, Spear of Sojin.
I actually
there
just
was 1 or 2 more.
I actually just looked up on Sunday 20 and it said that they've been iceboxed at the moment.
Yeah.
With no plans.
They said they might come out either in preseason or maybe the season, like next season sometime. But
it's that bad, huh?
Lame.
Yeah.
Sorry, Moon. Status 503. Oh, that's terrible. Anyway, So Vrail, I want you to tell me about this trend pick.
So it's not really like my pick per se. I was watching Twitch, and I don't know if y'all have ever watched Fogged FTW stream, but he's a Challenger Tryndamere main, and I watched the stream a few times, and I started watching it more consistently. And I was like, well, Trent seems like a lot of fun. He gets a lot of kills, and he always has tons of CS. So I decided to try him out on my alternate account after like doing some research on how to play him and everything. And I think he's super good for solo carrying just because he scales super hard. He can win early, but he like almost always outscales. He's not really like a champion who you're gonna pick up and just like raffle stomp people. But like if you take the time to like watch some videos about how to play him and how to navigate his sometimes difficult early game, he can be like super, super effective for carrying just because not being able to die is good, and he has almost endless damage. And also people suck at dealing with split push, which is what I found the most successful while I was trying to climb. So I probably played about 50 games of Tryndamere on my alternate account over the last month or so. I had an 80% win rate for a long stretch of time, and now it's 70 something. And I went from like gold 4 to plat 4, and he's just like so good for carrying shitty teams because you're just like, all right, y'all just don't die immediately. I'll go bot lane and I'll take their whole base while y'all fight over something. So people who aren't organized at all, which is like all of solo queue, you can really take advantage of it. And if you're like trying to find a champion, like you're stuck in some kind of elo, I don't think you should just pick up Trend and go right into ranked. But if you go look up Fog FTW's YouTube videos, he has like a 4 or 5 hour series about everything Tryndamere related. And you take the time to watch that and then play a few normals games and then try him in ranked, I think he's like so good for carrying just because of the nature of his scaling and split pushing, and it's just so strong. He's not like a broken champion because he doesn't have like a high win rate, but if you take the time to learn him, that's when he becomes broken.
Yeah.
Kind of that last bit is what could be said for all characters, right? If you take the time to learn them, then they become overpowered.
But I would argue that Trend, though, has a much lower skill floor than a lot of other champions, so he's a lot easier to pick up and actually start to become competent on.
Exactly. He's not, you just right click and spin on people.
Yeah.
And he does enough damage where he like outscales Fiora, you can outscale Riven, all these people, where he just does so much damage and he's not difficult. So it's great for learning, especially in lower elo, because he can win a lot of lanes early, like even matchups like Teemo. He can beat Teemo if you play it right. He can beat like Pantheon if you play it right. And then he just outscales all those people if you just manage not to fall super far behind. So I think he's a good champion to climb with.
I don't think Trend is quite so easy mode, to be honest. I mean, I'm biased, I guess, because he was the first character that I mained like regularly in ranked before I switched to Garen, but he's a character who can only auto attack. There's a lot of weaknesses involved with that. People who are good, you know, and they respect what Trinity can do, they will punish you for making mistakes. And he's a character who gets punished really hard. If you ever spin in and you can't actually win that fight, like you're dead.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing. That's why you have to take the time and learn when you actually, because if you can only take fights when you're sure you're going to win, but if you know you're going to win, you can win fights super hard. That's what I found. I'm not like a Trend expert. I've only played like 50 games of him, but I think that he has a lot of strengths, but just not be able to die in his damage late game is kind of insane. But it does take some time to learn.
His ult's definitely forgiving. Like if you're playing defensively and then people try to be aggressive and you're just like saving your spin to run away, saving your ult to run away, you can definitely like cheat death. You know, like that's definitely like an easy mode thing about him. And his all-in is, you know, mechanically, it's not super crazy intense. The hardest thing about him mechanically is using his ultimate at the right time. Not too early, not too late. And in fact, the closer you can get to 1 health before using it, the better off you're going to be. But, you know, that said, he's a Xin Zhao, he's a Garen, he's that type of character who, well, if they go in and they shouldn't have, you know, they're one of the easiest characters to punish.
Well, isn't that the same thing that you can be said? I'm not. This isn't a start to discrediting your point. I'm trying to amplify it or bolster it. That, like Jax, for example, you don't want to jump in with his E on at all. Like, if you start a team fight, you as Jax aren't using E. You're using E to mitigate damage. You're using E to, allow you to get more auto attacks off, etc. And the same thing can kind of be said for Trinity, where you're not Eing into the fight unless it's a sure thing. You're really saving E to either execute, or to help execute, or to chase, or to, fly over a wall, whatever it may be, or get out of the situation. I think E really does become the skill on Tryndamere that becomes make or break with him, not how fast you can press R.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead. Sorry.
I would agree, to a certain point. I think it's just those types of characters require a lot of game knowledge. When a character is simple mechanically, you have to make up for it somewhere to compete with people. And so you have to make up for it, like in your macro or your decision making. And I think Trin's a character that rewards good decision making because, like Frail said, if you go in a good situation, like there's pretty much no reason you should lose that fight just because of the way his kit's geared. Super high damage and short term invulnerability. And just like Garen, like if you go into the right time, Garen's kit is designed to beat anybody he's stronger than, because he has a really high damage execute, and he has, a long enough silence to keep you close enough to him where he can, choose to fight you or, maybe escape. So, but that only works if the opponents you're against either aren't respecting you or are making mistakes themselves. And as, your skill level goes up and people, make less and less mistakes, I feel like the effectiveness of those characters really fall off. So I just feel like at their core, because they're really what they're weakest to is skill. I think because of that, they're just inherently not overpowered, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand.
Right.
I think that's probably the best way to end that or put that. It's that there's a lot of little. That's probably why you're finding success with it, Vrail, is you understand the macro level of gameplay a bit more. And like you said, he does really well in the 1v1 because you don't have to worry about all the other factors out there. You just push and then fight and push and fight and push and fight. But obviously there's a little bit more to it, the nuances.
Yeah, if you don't manage to split push well, then you're probably not going to have a lot of success. You have to know when to group and when to split, which is one of the toughest things. But if you can do that well, then, I mean, I think there's nothing. Like Moon is saying, he does for sure have weaknesses and can be outplayed and things like that. But I think, especially if you're lower elo, he can really abuse people who don't know what they're doing, which you'll have to know what you're doing in order to be able to do that. But if you can spend the time, I think it's worth it.
Well, I think we're gonna end it there. That's an hour of podcasting time. I'm parched. Lancefer, is he pointing for a reason?
Did Moon ever get a chance to talk about the new skins?
I didn't talk about God King Garen or the new Darius skin. I don't know. I don't really have much to say. I'm a little disappointed that Jameson Price isn't the Garen's voice actor didn't actually voice the skin. It's Azira's voice actor instead, I've heard.
Okay.
So that's kind of disappointing. But it looks good. The particles are awesome, and I like that the ult is nice and explodey, even if you don't secure the kill.
Nice and explodey. Well said.
And there's a whole vent around him. So,
dude, Darius' skin is kind of like Lancefer's. It's all white and crazy
and rugged.
I don't know if I like Darius's. Darius's head on that skin just doesn't seem to fit the rest of the.
It looks small.
Look of it.
Well, Darius is a wolf, right? Lancefer has a wolf-like complexion.
I'll take it, I guess.
Like very, you got the big ass beard and bit of wild hair, but you're the beast, man. You're okay. I don't know, whatever.
I need an ow.
Not tonight.
Damn it.
Maybe next time.
I don't know. I thought I made a good point, but maybe I was way off base.
He needs
Sorry.
more alcohol in him.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to end it there. Guys, don't forget, I'm looking for co-hosts. If you need more information, our T-Force network on Reddit. You can go read all about it there. We're looking for 5+ players. Give me an MP3. Don't go over 5 minutes. Feedback at trinityforcepodcast.com. We're really looking forward to bringing you guys on and trying to expand this show. I really want to push through the next half of the season with your guys' help. So let me know through email. Guys, that is it for the podcast. Thank you so much for listening. And this will be the only podcast you get this week. We're not doing one Wednesday, but we'll be back next Monday with another show. So guys, we will see you then. Have a good weekend and enjoy. Peace.
Later.